You know, the polls left, right and center. We're just 8 days away from the general elections. The main two protagonists are busy on the campaign trail. President Uhuru Kenyatta is today expected in Tala, Murang'a, then Embu before embarking in Nairobi. That is where he's going to conduct a prayer rally right here in Nairobi at Uhuru Park, to be specific. And NASA leader Raila Odinga is also expected in Nakuru. Speaking about pollsters and their results, Infotruck released an opinion poll on governors. Let's listen in to what they had to say.
The findings are there. 52.2% of the respondents said they would vote for the incumbent governor, Lusaka Kenneth Makelo, who is vying with the Jubilee ticket. 31.9% of the respondents said they would vote for Wangamati Wycliffe Wafula, who is vying with the Fort Kenya ticket. 5.2% of the respondents said they would vote for Kangati Alfred, who is vying with an ODM ticket. The sample was selected to represent the 40 wards in Migori County. So how would they vote if elections were held between 10th and 15th of July? These are the findings. 71.9%, we can call it 72%, would vote for the incumbent governor, Obado Zakaria Okoth, who is vying with an ODM ticket. 20.7% would vote for Ochilo Ayako, who is an independent candidate. 4.4% would vote for Kibagiri Crispinas, who is vying with the Jubilee ticket. Assuming the elections for Nyandarua governorates were held today, which candidate would you vote for? And the findings are 66.7% of the respondents would vote for the Jubilee aspirant Francis Kimemia. 9.3% would vote for the incumbent governor Daniel Waithaka Mwangi, who is an independent candidate. 4.2% Moses Dirango Kiari, who is also an independent candidate.
Well, as I've already mentioned, typically 60% of members of parliament lose elections whenever an election is held in the country. But from the poll there, from the polls that was conducted by Infotruck, it seems most governors are sitting pretty. So let's go back to the details of that result. And one of the governors that is sitting pretty, and you know, I surprised so many people, is Ken Lusaka. Although he comes from the Jubilee Party in an area perceived to be an opposition stronghold.
Well, I understand Ken Lusaka has been very active on the ground. But from, again, interaction with the people from that part of the world, the two candidates having seen the warning, the red warning, they're likely to have a conversation, maybe over a cup of tea and chicken, and agree to step down so that he's got one competitor. Because the politicians, especially the NASA politicians from Western Kenya, they fear Ken Lusaka, that if Ken Lusaka retains the position, then he's going to take them through small circles. So there's going to be every effort to ensure that the other guy is support one candidate so that he faces, one candidate. And the same is likely to happen in Nairobi, despite the fact that Governor Kidero has been underwhelming. He's, to use the Chebunet's records, he needs to go to the Guinness Book of Records as one of the worst performing governors. He's likely to win because during the last meeting in Nairobi, I suspect he's going to be given an opportunity where all the NASA principals will say that for Nairobi, let it be ODM straight away. So people are going to vote for Kidero on an emotional aspect because they love Raila Odinga, not because he has delivered. And that's a tragedy. But looking at the global picture, especially going to where Chebunet comes from in Eldoret, the fact that you're having ODM gaining stronghold, getting traction in that part of the world, is a very strong indication that politics in Kenya is beginning to change. That Kenyans are beginning to say, as we go towards the general election, it's got nothing to do with President Kenyatta or Raila Odinga. It's about your selfish interest. That the leader you are going to elect, when they go to office, are they going to come up with the policies to take your life to the next level? Are they going to come up with the policies, like, for instance, what one would have expected for Dr. Kidero to do in Nairobi, knowing that we have a housing crisis in Nairobi, he would have gone the extra mile to release some county government land so that we have houses. So that instead of Raila Odinga trying to give us ideas on how we are going to reduce rent, we have an oversupply of houses. And I think in some parts of Kenya, that is going to be the conversation. That when Raila Odinga says, I'm going to come up with policies to grow the economy, and President Kenyatta says, I'm going to come up with policies to grow the economy, among the two, who actually represents your selfish interests. Like recall during the last campaign, Kavemba's candidate said the economy is going to do double-digit growth. That has not happened. So when Kenyatta says today, if you give me another 5 years, the economy will have a double-digit growth. And Raila Odinga says, if you give me another 5 years, or rather if you give me 5 years, the economy is going to grow. Among the two, whom are you going to believe? Because maybe 4 weeks ago, had you told anybody in Kenya that the NASA candidates are going to look at Mandago and endorse him, and Mandago still has got strong influence in Uasin Gishu, people would have said you're a madman in the village. But right now he has embraced it. Not only embracing it, has even gone the extra mile to endorse an ODM candidate for a position.
Actually,
and
that is something I wanted to talk about. And Dr. Gubernatorial, once again, you have contacts on the ground. What does this mean when, you know, the members of the opposition go ahead and endorse Mandago? I'm sure Jubilee supporters will read mischief in this. They might think, well, Mandago has close ties with the opposition. And then after that, immediately after that, Mandago goes ahead and endorses another ODM candidate. Is it for the MCA position?
I think it's a survival tactic by Mandago. And you find that actually the opposition did not endorse Mandago. Remember when Kalonzo rose...
It's in the campaigning.
Yeah, when Kalonzo rose to speak, he just said, pass my greetings to Mandago.
What does that mean?
And Raila said, actually it's Kalonzo who said, if I were in Uasin Gishu, I would have voted for Mandago. Yeah. But Raila said,
that technically means
pass
if
my
you're a Kalonzo
greetings,
supporter, you should vote for
pass my
Mandago.
greetings to Mandago. Actually, the opposition wanted to have a slice of the Jubilee vote in Uasin Gishu. And they were very cunning, knowing who is famous in Uasin Gishu. And of course, Mandago is famous. So they knew by supporting Mandago, they would get the Kalenjin vote. But in Langas, what Sudi did and Mandago is just a way of boosting the support of Mandago.
Kavemba, do you think the opposition are going to get a slice of Uasin? I mean, they're going to get a slice of Uasin Gishu votes by supporting Mandago?
I don't think so, but I think they have some reasons why they endorsed Mandago. One of the things is that their vote, you know, they also have a substantive vote in Eldoret, and they do not have in Uasin Gishu, and they do not have a gubernatorial candidate. Yeah. So that vote is still going to be NASA's, but now at the presidential level, at the gubernatorial, they've now gifted Mandago with that. So the question is, what is the motive behind their actions? We need to look at it from that angle so that we can probably explain ourselves. You see, you had said that previously that there are some opinion polls that had put Buzeki at the lead. I understand Buzeki comes from the Marakwet. Then
come from the Keyo.
Keyo, thank you, Keyo. Keyo Marakwet, you know, us from outside here, we don't get the difference clearly, but that one, Keyo. And they have a substantive number in Uasin Gishu, not the majority, but they have quite a good number. Then the other thing is the way Mandago has been conducting himself in the last 5 years has seemed to be antagonistic of a certain support base within Jubilee. Let me put it the Gema vote, that he's been trying to replace them in, you know, business opportunities, business spaces, and so they developed some hostility towards him. So now the KO vote, that Gema vote in Uasin Gishu, and the NASA vote, just look at these 3 blocks, were posing a threat to Mandago. Yes. That is the truth of the matter. Yeah. And Mandago had to find a way of undoing it. Then look at Isaac Ruto. Now we are looking at local politics. You know very well that Mandago is seen as someone who can stand up to the DP. He can even challenge him. He's one of those people who are not very loyal, if we can put it.
Actually, it's the most, it's the 5th popular...
Now, that's why I'm taking you, so that you look at it. So, what I saw is this, that Mandago, and you know, Mandago and Isaac Ruto are both governors. So they are colleagues, they are peers, they talk. So I saw that Mandago must have reached out to Isaac Ruto and explained to him the predicament he's facing and told him, going forward, actually, Mandago himself said that he's going for this term, and in 2022, he will be looking for... Are you getting it? So that is what NASA thought of undermining the DP. Undermining is the DP. That's what I'm looking at the bigger picture. The NASA looked at it as a way of undermining the DP by ensuring that that person who's perceived not to be in his right books wins, and at the same time, they help Isaac Ruto, to have some pillars within the Rift Valley so that going forward, they can have a team to challenge the DP. That is from NASA's perspective, not Mandago's. Mandago just wants to get re-elected.
There has been some sort of talks between Mandago and the members of the opposition?
You know, from the body language and the way the entire, you know, rally was, you know, conducted, you would understand that it was pre-planned. This is something that we're going to do. And it is interesting to see that they invoked Jaramogi Oginga Odinga's strategy of endorsing somebody by just saying, great for me, so and so. And I want to agree. I want to agree with Kavemba that the last time we had this conversation, Mandago was a man under siege because of the different capital blocks that we have in Uasin Gishu. We have the Nanandis, then we have the Nan-Kalenjins in Uasin Gishu, you know, where you have Luos, Kikuyus, Kales, and so on. And they you know, if you look at their percentage, it is a big number, you know, almost 40%. And I think by having that number out of Mandago's voting bloc, it was posing a threat. And the fact that Buzeki was, first of all, a Kalenjin, and then it is secondly that he's a Keyo, meant that even in the 60% of the Nandi votes, he had a chunk. So it is safe to conclude that this is something that Mandago had to look for, and it appears that he's the one who went behind the scenes and talked. Because all these guys endorsed him, from Governor Ruto, who talked passionately, and I think he talked for long in Uasin Gishu. He appealed to them and even told them, me, I grew up here. You know, I went to school here, and we were with my brother, William. And I think that was a plan that you cannot just say that happened without Mandago's hand in it. But I think having said that, I think it's also important to understand that the fact that the deputy president came out openly and said that the people of Uasin Gishu should vote for Mandago, and Mandago should, that his small brother Buzeki should just swallow his pride and support the winning candidate, actually worked against Mandago. You know, the moment you are perceived to be a project, it becomes difficult for you to endear yourself. And if you look at the brand of politics that Mandago is a leftist, from his mannerism and everything, he doesn't look like somebody you can contain in a room with the same conversation for long.
And tame him.
Yes.
Of course, from what you've been saying and what observations of people have made, Uasin Gishu will be one of the most hotly contested seats. And you talked about greetings. It seems, you know, Mandago is getting an avalanche of greetings from NASA. And we're almost out of time. Let me just get your final comments on this. Let me just start with this person, then coming this way.
For me, when you look at Mandago, in as much as we've got the local communities at play, but these are demonstrations that Kenyans are becoming mature by the day. And this election is not about Raila Odinga and President Kenyatta. People are beginning to ask themselves, what kind of path do we follow so that we are able to achieve our selfish interest? And you know, in the past, it has always been purely a tribal bloc. That if you're a Kikuyu man, you must vote for a Kikuyu candidate. If you're a Luo man, you must vote for this particular candidate. But if you're going to have now ODM candidates winning in Eldoret, if you're going to have somebody like Dr. Mishra winning in Eldoret, then that is a very strong indication that people are beginning to ask themselves, if I vote for President Kenyatta, am I going to be empowered? And you know, NASA has been running around with an interesting theme, that President Kenyatta has been empowering family and friends. So people now are beginning to ask, who between President Kenyatta and Raila Odinga is going to empower me as an individual? And there's a very interesting economics concept brought forward by Adam Smith, saying that people towards the election, they look at their selfish interest to establish who between these two candidates represents my selfish interest. If you are genuine and you speak to a number of voters from central Kenya, a number of them are beginning to say, what do we stand to lose if we vote for Raila Odinga? And the same happens in some parts in Bondo. They're saying, what do we lose if we vote for President Kenyatta? So those are the conversations that are supposed to be making progress in a mature economy. So that when you go to cast your ballot, you shouldn't be voting for Sonko simply because you come from the Kamba Nation. You're supposed to be looking whether or not is going to be running the Nairobi County in a manner that meets with your selfish interest.
I'm sure you have something to say about
that. My closing remarks are about Nairobi. The assumptions that have been made here that the final rally is going to whip people into line. What people don't know about Nairobi is that the internal competition of partner parties in NASA is real. And actually, the most disadvantaged group has been the Wiper group, the Kamba group. They've been saying, and rightly so, that they are only needed when ODM needs their top-up vote. In the presidency, they work together here in Nairobi. The gubernatorial, they work together. When it comes to parliament, the 17, ODM goes as ODM and lets Wiper go as Wiper. Even where Wiper has the single biggest voting chunk in Embakasi South, they still compete with ODM, and actually ODM beat them to that. That is where Irshad Sumra is the MP. When you come to the MCAs, Wiper is on its own. And for that reason, that is why the Wiper bloc is most likely going to vote for Sonko so that they get back at their ODM counterparts who've been almost shortchanging them, that they are only with us when they need our vote to top up. For the president, we vote with them in Nairobi. For the governorship, we vote with them. The rest, they do not want any compromise. That has left the Kambas almost missing in the political map of Nairobi. For your information, out of the 85 MCAs in Nairobi, Wiper had 2 in the last election. Only 2. ODM had 41. The members of parliament, ODM had 9. 8, TNA had 9. Wiper had none. Now Wiper has, of course, the Wiper vote.
You've mastered the figures.
Yes, because I'm a Nairobi politician. I'm a Nairobi politician. And these are factual figures. And like I told you, in the last, nobody from called in the last election told Wiper bloc to vote for Sonko. They told them, it was actually so silent that it only came out after the results were announced. You can be sure. The other thing is that we have 2 Kambas. There is Sonko going for governor and there is Mweke going for the deputy governor. In terms of their personalities, Sonko is a grassroots person. The local Kambas in the ghettos can easily identify with him. On the contrary, Mweke and Kidero are of the same group. They are boardroom generals. And that is where they will lose out. Because when it comes to the Kamba vote, it is going to be more friendly to Sonko because of obvious reasons. He's been interacting with them more than the deputy governor, even in the last 5 years. If you ask them the way Kenyans think, they'll tell you, we've not benefited anything from Kidero. The underperformance of Kidero has also affected them. So they are also very disillusioned. And for that reason, they are likely to look at, what they have been told is this, and we are telling them that much, it's not a secret to those of us who are in Jubilee, that NASA is likely to lose the presidency. If they lose the presidency and you also don't elect Sonko, you are going to disappear. So the senior most Kamba politician, and in the likely event NASA doesn't win, which they won't, then will be Sonko. And for that reason, they need to make sure they are not nowhere.
There are those who come from the school of thought that if Sonko is going to bite into Kidero's voting basket, the same can be said of PK, because that's Peter Kenneth is going to bite into Sonko's Jubilee's kind of support.
I want to agree with you, but to what extent? The question is, the figures are not going to be substantive enough to deny Sonko victory, depending on how Kambas go. Actually, even if 50% of Kambas in Nairobi vote for Sonko and PK gets, let's say, 20, 30, which is what I'm thinking is going to get 1,000 votes, then that will not stop Sonko
he got 60,000 during the nomination, for the record.
That was during the nomination. The president, listen to what is happening here.
That was during the nomination, you can't compare it with general elections.
No, because as we speak now, the president, who is the owner of the Jubilee vote in Nairobi, has repeatedly come out to tell his people to vote for Sonko. In the last election, let me tell you what happened. Jim Nambaru was in the race, if you can remember that. He was running on an APK. And on the last rally, the president actually, and Jim was present, he said, huyu tutampatia kazi kwa serikali ya kitaifa. Watu wapigia Waititu. He managed to get 52,000 votes. He was more of a Nairobi politician, having vied in Starehe previously than PK is. So I don't think PK is even going to manage the 52,000 that Jimna got.
Hesbon, we have 4 minutes. You have to share 2 minutes.
I think I don't have much to say, and I won't delve into Nairobi politics. I want to come back to citizenship. And given that we've talked a lot about the political capital, the tribal blockings and all that, I want to believe that, we've had a very interesting campaign period, less emotive. We've not had serious issues that have divided Kenyans, and it is important that Kenyans go with the same spirit into the election. We should not scare ourselves that there won't be peace. This election is going to be peaceful, and the people who will make this election peaceful are the citizens of this country. Citizenship is the most important office in a democracy. And it is only important if you have enough information. If you're going to vote, irrespective of the person you're going to vote for as a Kenyan, please come out, get to understand the electoral process, do the right thing, vote for your candidate and vote on them, on the key issues that you think they stand for that are going to change your life. Yes.
And most politicians have been, talking about turnout. Do you believe this time round Kenyans will turn out in big numbers?
Kenyans will turn out in big numbers. Yeah,
Kenyans,
and the reason why politicians are doing that is because turnout will determine whether we'll have a winner in the first round or not. And of course, turnout is also important because we've had, you know, a lot of things that have happened in Kenya that are polarizing. There are people who think we are worse off. There are people who think we are better off. So the people who think we are better off have a reason to turn up in large numbers and continue with what we've been having. And the people who think that we are worse off have a reason to turn up in large numbers. And I think that is what NASA has been doing. Jubilee has been doing that. For us to continue with what we've been doing, you need to come out and vote. NASA has been saying that because we've had the most terrible, you know, period in our history, you need to turn up and vote and send this government home. So turnout is very important.
Dr. Philip Chebunet, I'm sure you'll have something to do with, to talk something about Rift Valley. Those who are saying NASA's made inroads, especially in Bomet. We are seeing some interesting development in Uasin Gishu. NASA supporting a Jubilee candidate. What is happening in Rift Valley?
I think, before I comment on that, I think Mandago will go into history as the only governor who has been supported by both the government
and the opposition.
and so I think
there should be a party show.
Yeah, that should be the trend. That should be the trend in the whole country. And I think also, if you read the concubine, for you to marry Uoma, you must get this lizard, the elusive lizard, and that is you must win the elections. So in the last moments, in all these counties that are battlegrounds, you must apply your tactics. And I think that's why some tactics are being applied now. The emotions are rising high.
It will be very interesting to know which kind of tactics Mandagora has applied to get the support of the opposition. Many thanks, Dismas Mukua, for your input. And then we have Mutinda Kavemba, who is a Jubilee strategist, Hezbollah Owila, who is a political analyst, and our good doctor here, Philip Chebunet, all the way from Eldoret University. Of course, it has been a very interesting 2 hours of political conversation right here on this Sunday edition. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim, and this is where we're going to end the show. But remember, we'll be live from 2 p.m. on the campaign edition of Choice 27. That is where we're going to bring it to you live. Both rallies, one by Jubilee under the leadership of President Uhuru Kenyatta. He is expected any moment from now in Tala, and then he's going to go to Muranga, then Embu, before finalizing his rally right here in the capital, Nairobi. On the other hand, NASA's leader, Raila Odinga, will be campaigning in Nakuru County. That's where we end the show. Many thanks for watching. My name is Yusuf Ibrahim once again. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye for now.